All right, so let's dive into something I think pretty fascinating today. Okay, so picture this. It's a scorching summer day, like sweltering, and you have no refrigerator.
Oh, wow.
Could you even
I
imagine?
didn't even want to think about that.
Right.
Yeah.
How would you keep your food, from turning into like a science experiment gone wrong?
It's a scenario most of us wouldn't even want to think about, but for the Amish community, this is everyday life.
It's true. They've been mastering food preservation techniques for centuries,
Mm.
and all without relying on
I know,
electricity.
it's incredible.
And you know what?
Yeah.
These techniques not only work, they're surprisingly relevant, especially with energy costs like storing through the roof these days.
Yeah.
And everyone's becoming more conscious about, their environmental footprint.
It's incredible how much we can learn from their ingenuity. Like you said, these aren't just like quaint practices from the past.
Right.
They're practical and sustainable solutions that we could adapt for today's world.
Absolutely. And we're diving deep today into a YouTube video from Frugal Solutions that breaks down these Amish methods. It's seriously eye-opening stuff. But first we need to understand, like, the foundation of the Amish way of life.
Yeah.
Why do they choose to live this way? What's the reasoning behind it?
Well, at the heart of the Amish lifestyle is a profound emphasis on simplicity, humility, and community.
Right.
They value self-sufficiency and tradition, consciously stepping back from many modern conveniences.
Yeah. It's like they're choosing to live in a way that honors their values and strengthens their community bonds.
Right.
And it makes total sense why they've become masters of food preservation without electricity.
Yeah.
It's not a choice.
Well,
It's a necessity for them.
exactly. And to truly appreciate their methods, we need to consider the historical context.
Mm.
Before refrigeration, preserving food was a matter of survival,
Oh, absolutely.
especially in rural communities with limited access to fresh food year-round.
It's humbling to think about how much we take for granted these days, isn't it?
It really is. The Amish, out of necessity, became incredibly resourceful.
Yeah.
They honed these methods over generations, and the results are impressive.
I agree with you. And what amazes me is the elegance of their approach.
Mm-hmm.
They figured out how to use natural cooling systems, insulation, and humidity control to keep their food fresh.
Yeah.
It speaks to a deep understanding of natural processes, something we often overlook in our modern world.
You hit the nail on the head. Their methods are a testament to their deep connection with nature. It's not about dominating nature, but working in harmony with it.
Okay, enough with the buildup. Let's get into the nitty-gritty.
Okay.
First up, root cellars. These are like underground wonders, right? Tell me everything.
Okay, imagine this. You step into a cool, dimly lit space beneath the ground. The air is slightly damp and earthy.
Wait.
This is a root cellar.
Okay.
It's a naturally insulated chamber, specifically designed to store fruits, vegetables, and other goodies.
So they're basically using the earth as a giant natural refrigerator.
Yes.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it is. You see, the earth maintains a remarkably stable temperature year-round.
Right?
This means a root cellar will naturally stay cooler in the summer and warmer in the winter, keeping your produce at an ideal temperature for longer.
But it's more than just like digging a hole in the ground, right?
Oh, yeah.
There's some serious engineering involved.
Absolutely. The construction of a root cellar is crucial for its effectiveness.
Yeah.
They use thick walls made from insulating materials like earthstone or wood to further stabilize the temperature. And here's the kicker. They incorporate ventilation systems. Carefully placed vents control airflow and humidity, preventing spoilage and ensuring proper air circulation.
Wow.
It's a delicate balance, but they've got it down to a science.
I'm getting a sense of like the level of thought and precision that goes into these cellars.
Oh, yeah.
It's more than just storage. It's an entire system designed to work with nature.
Exactly. It's about maximizing efficiency and sustainability while minimizing waste. And it works. Root cellars can dramatically extend the shelf life of produce, allowing you to enjoy homegrown food for months longer than you'd expect.
Okay, I'm sold on root cellars. What about ice houses? They sound straight out of a history book.
Right.
Tell me about them.
Think about harvesting ice in the thick of winter, then packing it tightly into a specially designed building with layers of insulating materials like straw or sawdust.
Okay.
That's the heart of an ice house.
So it's like having a walk-in freezer powered by nature.
It is. Now here's where the science gets really fascinating.
Okay.
As the ice slowly melts, it absorbs heat from the surrounding environment, effectively maintaining a chilly environment ideal for preserving food.
So even as the ice melts, it's working to keep the space cool.
Right.
It's like a delayed release cooling system.
Precisely. It's a brilliant demonstration of thermal insulation and latent heat.
Mm-hmm.
It really showcases how the Amish were able to understand and harness these natural processes long before modern refrigeration came along.
Yeah. I'm starting to realize just how much we can learn from their resourcefulness and ingenuity.
It's amazing.
Okay, now I'm curious about Springhouse.
Okay.
They sound almost magical, like something out of a fairy tale. What's the story there?
Imagine a small structure, almost like a miniature house, built directly over a natural spring or stream.
Okay.
That's a spring house.
All right.
The continuous flow of cold spring water creates a naturally chilled environment perfect for storing food.
So it's like having nature's own refrigerator powered by a constantly flowing stream. I love it.
Right. It's brilliant in its simplicity.
Yeah.
The flowing water maintains a consistently cool temperature and naturally high humidity, which are ideal conditions for keeping food fresh.
Wow.
Plus, it prevents stagnant air and reduces the risk of spoilage.
Okay. I'm honestly blown away by the resourcefulness here. But these methods seem pretty old school. Are the Amish still using them today, or have they adapted to more modern techniques?
That's a great question. It gets to the heart of how tradition and innovation can coexist.
You've got me hooked. Tell me more.
While the Amish still hold on to these fundamental principles, they've absolutely incorporated modern touches to make things more efficient.
So they haven't abandoned their values, but they're not afraid to make improvements. Give me some examples.
Think about those root cellars we talked about. They might use more durable and insulated materials these days, or incorporate advanced ventilation systems to really fine-tune humidity and airflow.
It's like taking the original blueprint and making it even better with today's knowledge. What about ice houses? Have they evolved too?
Absolutely. With ice houses, they might use more effective insulation like polyurethane foam to keep that ice frozen for much longer.
Makes sense. And spring houses, any upgrades there?
Spring houses have seen fewer changes, but they might use better construction materials and smarter water management systems to make them last longer and work even better.
It's fascinating how they're able to blend the old with the new without compromising their core beliefs.
It's a testament to their adaptability. And sometimes they even combine traditional methods with modern conveniences. For example, some Amish families might use a root cellar alongside a small solar-powered refrigerator.
Like a clever hybrid approach. So they're not rejecting technology outright. They're choosing what makes sense for their lifestyle and values.
Exactly. It's about finding that sweet spot where tradition and practicality meet.
Okay, I have to geek out for a second. I'm fascinated by the science behind all of this. What makes these methods work so well?
Fellow science enthusiasts, there's a lot to unpack here. It's amazing how they've used basic principles of physics and thermodynamics to their advantage.
Hit me with the science. What's the secret sauce?
Let's start with those root cellars. Remember how we talked about the Earth's natural insulation? That's all about thermal mass. The soil around the cellar acts like a giant battery, absorbing heat during the day and slowly releasing it at night. This helps regulate the temperature inside, keeping it nice and stable.
So it's like a built-in thermostat. What about ice houses? How does melting ice actually keep things cold?
That's the magic of latent heat. When ice melts, it absorbs a ton of heat from its surroundings, which is what keeps the ice house cool.
So the melting itself is what's doing the cooling. That's mind-blowing.
It is. It's a fantastic example of how a simple phase change in nature can be used for practical purposes. And speaking of natural processes, let's talk spring houses, what keeps them so cool.
I'm all ears.
It's all about that constant flow of cold spring water. That water acts as a natural heat sink, drawing heat away from the stored food and keeping things much cooler than the surrounding air.
It's like a natural air conditioner, using the power of water to keep everything fresh. I'm seriously impressed by how the Amish work with nature, not against it.
That's a crucial point. They're not just preserving food, they're preserving a way of life that's deeply connected to the natural world.
Let's be real, though. We live in a world of instant gratification and modern conveniences. How do these traditional methods compare to our beloved refrigerators in terms of efficiency and effectiveness?
That's the million-dollar question. It's not really about one being better than the other. Both have their own strengths and weaknesses.
So it depends on what you're looking for.
Exactly. Let's talk efficiency. Traditional methods like root cellars, ice houses, and spring houses are incredibly efficient in their use of resources.
Right. No electricity needed, just clever design and a deep understanding of nature.
Precisely. They rely on passive cooling, meaning they use very little energy to maintain the right temperature Modern refrigerators, on the other hand, excel at precise temperature and humidity control.
So if you need consistent, predictable conditions for all sorts of perishable items, a modern fridge is the way to go.
Especially for long-term storage and safety, yes.
So there's a trade-off. Modern fridges offer precision and consistency, while traditional methods win on sustainability and low energy use.
It's all about picking the right tool for the job. But we also have to think about the big picture, our environmental impact, and our reliance on energy-hungry technology.
Speaking of environmental impact, that's a major concern today. What are the advantages of traditional methods in that regard?
Well, first off, they significantly reduce our carbon footprint and energy consumption. They don't need any electricity, which means fewer greenhouse gases from power plants.
That's a big win for the planet.
Absolutely. And remember, they rely on renewable resources, soil, ice, and flowing water. These resources replenish naturally, unlike the fossil fuels that power most of our modern gadgets.
It's like taking a step back in time to glimpse a more sustainable way of living. I'm inspired by their approach, even if I can't ditch my fridge entirely.
I agree. It's about finding ways to bring those principles into our modern lives.
Okay, we've covered the environmental angle. But what about the food itself? Does it taste different? Is it more nutritious?
There can be noticeable differences. Foods stored using traditional methods often retain more of their natural flavors and nutrients.
Really? How so?
Think about it. The consistent, cool environment of a root cellar or spring house helps preserve the taste and texture of fresh produce. This often results in food that is more flavorful and nutrient-rich.
So you're telling me a carrot stored in a root cellar might taste better than one from the supermarket?
It's definitely possible. And because these methods naturally extend the shelf life of food, there's less need for artificial preservatives and additives.
So it's like getting a healthier, more natural product.
Exactly. It's about preserving food in its purest form, minimizing exposure to those synthetic substances you often find in processed foods.
I never thought about it that way, but it makes perfect sense. So these traditional methods are good for the environment and potentially better for our health.
You got it. It's a win-win.
Okay, last but not least, let's talk money. We already touched on the energy savings, but are there other economic benefits?
Absolutely. By relying less on electrical refrigeration, you're not only saving on energy bills, but also lowering your overall cost of living.
It makes sense.
Hmm.
And since you're extending the life of your food and throwing less away, you're saving money with every meal.
Precisely. It's a smarter and more economical way to manage your food.
It also promotes self-sufficiency, right? You're less dependent on grocery stores and those big food corporations.
Exactly. It's about taking control of your food sources and supporting a more local and sustainable food economy.
I'm truly impressed by the many benefits of these Amish practices. It's not just about keeping food cold, it's a whole different approach to life that values sustainability, health, and connection with nature.
It's a powerful reminder that sometimes the oldest solutions are the most relevant in our modern world.
You know, as we've been exploring these Amish traditions, it's really struck me how much they embody a philosophy of resilience.
Resilience, yeah, that's a great way to put it. What makes you say that?
Well, think about it. The Amish way of life, with its focus on self-sufficiency and adaptability, is all about being ready for anything you know. Like anything life throws their way.
That's true. They're not dependent on systems that can break down or be disrupted.
Right.
They have a built-in backup plan for their everyday lives.
Exactly. And their food preservation methods are like a perfect example.
Right.
By using natural resources and time-tested techniques, they're less vulnerable to things like power outages, supply chain problems, or even like economic downturns.
Yeah, it's like they've woven a safety net into their very existence.
Right.
They're prepared for the uncertainties of the modern world.
And that resilience goes beyond just having food on the table.
Mm-hmm.
It's part of their social fabric, their community values, and their spiritual beliefs.
It gives them a deep sense of purpose and belonging, which helps them face any challenge that comes their way.
It makes you realize that we could all learn a thing or two from them, regardless of our own backgrounds or lifestyles.
Absolutely. It's not about copying their practices exactly, but about cultivating that same mindset of resilience.
So it's about being resourceful,
Mm-hmm.
adaptable, and connected to our communities.
Yeah.
It's about finding ways to rely less on those big systems and more on our own ingenuity and the support of those around us.
You've got it. And that message is especially important today with all the complex challenges we face. Climate change, economic uncertainty, social divisions.
It's easy to feel overwhelmed by it all,
It is.
but the Amish way of life shows us that we have more power to make a difference than we might think.
It's about reclaiming our ability to create positive change in our own lives and communities.
And that starts with asking some tough questions.
Yeah.
How can we become more self-reliant? How can we build stronger connections with our neighbors?
Mm.
How can we live in a way that respects nature and uses resources wisely?
These are big questions, but they're the right ones to be asking. And I think the Amish can offer some valuable insights as we try to find our way in these uncertain times.
They've shown us that resilience isn't just about like getting by,
Right.
it's about thriving.
Yeah.
It's about finding joy and meaning in simplicity, connection, and respect for the natural world.
Beautifully put. That's a perfect way to sum up what we've been exploring in this deep dive.
It's been an incredible journey,
It has.
not just into the world of the Amish, but also into our own values and what we aspire to.
It's been a pleasure sharing these ideas with you, and I hope our listeners have found it just as insightful and inspiring.
Me too.
Yeah.
As we wrap up this episode, what's one key takeaway you'd like our listeners to ponder?
I think it circles back to that word resilience.
Mm-hmm.
In a world that's constantly changing, it's more important than ever to nurture that inner strength, that ability to adapt and bounce back from challenges.
And to remember that we're not in this alone.
Right.
We have the power to build stronger communities, connect with nature, and create a more sustainable and resilient future.
You said it.
Well, folks, that's a wrap for our deep dive into the world of Amish food preservation. We hope you've enjoyed exploring these age-old practices with us. It's a reminder that sometimes the simplest solutions are the most profound, and there's always wisdom to be found in looking back. Until next time, stay curious, stay connected, and stay resilient.